Hi, everybody. Dan Illman and Mike Beer taking a look at the DRF race of the day for Friday, December the 20th. Race number 9 at Oaklawn Park. This is a high-level allowance race. Let's take a look at this field of sprinters going 3/4 of a mile. $133,000 is the purse for this allowance race. Remember to access your free Formulator Pass performances on the Race of the Day event page at DRF.com. Take a peek, handicap along with us. Wide open race by the morning line. The 7 Tahanotwist, a very tepid 7-2 morning line favorite. A horse with a good amount of back class and an affinity for Oaklawn Park.
Yeah, he's, the real issue with Tahanotwist, and he's a real good horse, Dad. He needs pace. He doesn't have any early speed. This race might set up okay for him. This is, if nothing else, is a stakes quality allowance race. You don't want to go too short on anybody in this field.
Well, let's throw up our Timeform US Pace Projector. There's some quality speeds in here as well. The 9 Edge to Edge, returning from a June layoff, should show fresh early speed, returning to the preferred dirt surface after a turf experiment. Rivet is very fast for Steve Asmussen. I would have to think that that horse is going to be close to the pace, and it'll be very interesting to see what we get from Our Last Chance, who has shown speed in the past against Iowa breds at Prairie Meadows.
Yeah, it's a class test for him, but he's a pretty fast horse with inside position. I'm going to expect him to show speed in here, Dan. I did really feel like there was a chance that this pace gets competitive. And, you can see the LP flag over the number 1 Raise Kane. That is incorrect. The best closer in the race is the 7. But certainly Raise Kane would appreciate some pace to develop in front of him as well.
That is, if Raise Kane runs in this race. Right. We take a closer look at the number 1 Raise Kane. He is one of 2 in here, cross-entered into an allowance race, I believe, at Oaklawn on Saturday. He's got a good amount of back class. Remember when he upset the Gotham a couple of years ago at a big price on a wet track? I think the concern with fans of Raise Kane is this shorter distance. They're really sharpening him up, setting him back to 6 furlongs. I thought he ran quite well in the Hanshin 4 starts back during the spring at Churchill Downs. He made a wide bid and just flattened out a little bit while running a good third. It's just that his 3 subsequent races haven't been that great, and he's coming off a little layoff.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I mean, I personally, and as you've already pointed out, he's also entered Saturday in a 2-turn mile. I personally, Dan, think he's better going shorter, around 1 turn. So I kind of hope that they run him here. I'm with you on this. Maybe 6 is a little sharp for him, and he's sort of that better 7 or 8 furlong horse around 1 turn. But I don't know, man. If he can get the 6, especially with some pace in front of him, I think he can go with these horses. I didn't want to be too hard on him for the recent form. That horse that beat him 2 starts back, 7.5 is a weird distance there. That's a really good horse that won that race. 9 furlongs last time. He doesn't want to go that far.
Our Last Chance is the number 2. Here's the Iowa bred. We'll go back to his race 2 starts back, his most recent outing on dirt. This is the Dan Johnson Sprint against fellow state breds, and he's right in the thick of things, turning into the stretch as the favorite. He's going to drop a half-length decision while finishing second. This is a horse that got very, very strong at Oaklawn over the spring, continued that good form in Prairie Meadows, but as you mentioned in the open, it's a bit of a class test. I do like the fact that he finally took the measure of that pace horse he was battling with, only to fall short late.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I kind of feel like he just ran the best race there, even though he got run down, because he really did have to deal with the horse that was on the lead basically from start to finish. And he did finally push past that horse, but he couldn't stop the closer there. I thought he ran well. It's certainly a class test for him. He's got a couple of figures that are going to give him a real chance in here. He's going to be a price in this race. And, listen, they tried turf with them last time and it didn't work out. I don't really care about that race. Listen, personally, if I was a trainer and I had a midshipman, I'd try all of them on turf at least once.
Vanishing is the number 3, a horse that sold for $80,000 at public auction, and trainer David Jacobson's done some good things with this guy. He rallied from off the pace to win a 2nd-level allowance at Churchill Downs. I thought it was a pretty good performance going 7/8, Mike. He sort of crept up to the leaders on the outside and then grinded him down. I do wonder if cutting back to 6 is going to be best for him. I do think he could be a closing sprinter, but maybe sort of a 6.5, 7 closing sprinter.
I had the same concerns, sort of like Raising Kane, Dan. Maybe 6 is a little bit too short for him ultimately, but man, I'm not knocking this horse's form since Jacobson has taken over. Obviously, the first one at Saratoga was a bit of a disaster. He's run great at all 3 starts since then. I really appreciate the fact too that he's off the pace, but he is not, outrun by these horses. He keeps it in range. He always seems like he's traveling strongly. and he really finishes. This is a dangerous horse in this race.
Rivet is the number 4 for Steve Asmussen. This horse coming off of a solid layoff. We have not seen him since the end of June when he was facing some decent stakes horses at Churchill Downs. He has back class. He is a former graded stakes winner. He likes Oaklawn Park. He's won several races over this service, including a stakes race. I think the Bachelor is a 3-year-old. He can easily win a race like this. It's all about price. He's 4-1 on the morning line. I'm not sure how much shorter I would go considering the layoff. He has run well fresh in the past.
No, I agree with all that stuff. He can win here. I don't know that I would take a super short price on him. I'm a fan of this horse. I do think he's good. He's going to be part of this pace, and he's, sort of stepping back pretty significantly in class for this race. I think then he did earn, man, off that short layoff here earlier in the year in February. 99 buyer. He ran really, really well that day, but it was kind of a soft trip. I think this pace is going to be a little bit more difficult for him to have to deal with.
Although Cavod, the number 5, is only 1 for 10 at Oaklawn, that victory was a stakes score in the Advent at Oaklawn, going 3/4 of a mile way back in 2021. So he has no problems with this surface, and he's coming into the race in good form. He was entered for the $100,000 claiming option last time out at Churchill. He chased the pace on the outside, made the lead, and was pretty game to hold off the closer. This seems like a step up in class, but I do like his tactical speed and his overall consistency.
Yeah, I agree with that. All that stuff. And yeah, maybe it's a step up in class, but man, he's been holding his own against some pretty good horses. I mean, 2 back, he's in against Giant Mischief, who's a real nice horse. Before that, Extra Anejo, and that was a 7.5 race, which I don't think is a great distance for him. He's another one, Dan. I kind of felt like the morning line price maybe isn't one that I would take on him, but I think he's a contender in this race.
Bourbon Heist, the number 6, was claimed by the Asmussen barn 2 starts back, and maybe they aimed just a little bit too high in that Thanksgiving Classic at the fairgrounds. Stakes horses in the first off the claim. He fell far back, and he was able to pass a tired horse in the stretch. He is the kind of horse that does need pace and race luck. He does not have a lot of early speed.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's the real problem with him, Dan, too. Even if the race sets up for him, I just, really wasn't convinced that he's the best closer in this field. I didn't want to be too hard on him for that race last time because it was such a fast race, and he just really couldn't get involved there. But I don't think I'd bet him off of anything he did prior to that.
The number 7 is Tahanotwist. He won the Grade 3 Whitmore Stakes here at Oaklawn in 2023. He has been solid for a very long time. 19 of 36 lifetime in the exacta with 9 big wins. And he just missed last time out in his second start of the form cycle at Churchill Downs. I wonder if they've been slowly racing him back into shape so that when he gets here to Oaklawn, his preferred surface, he's ready to go.
Yeah, that could be a very good point too. I mean, listen, he's ultra reliable. Again, pace is super important to him, as is trip, but he is a legit stakes horse running in an allowance race here. I know he was defeated as the favorite in his most recent start. He ran really well in there, gaining ground on front running Disco Ball, who I think that's 5 in a row now for Disco Ball. He's just a razor sharp horse who made the lead, and this horse couldn't close him down. But this horse is good. And again, I think he's the best closer in the field.
Similarly, the number 8, Osborne, is going to be making his 3rd start off the layoff. He has prior good form at Oaklawn. Maybe he is racing himself back into shape. And I do like the fact that in his 2nd start off the bench, he showed much improved early speed at Churchill Downs. He did get tired against Cavod that day, but I think the improved speed shows he's getting sharper start by start. He has a couple of back races, and he doesn't need to be that close to the pace. He's very adaptable.
Yeah, interesting that you point out the improved speed last time, because sometimes that could be a good sign for a horse, and it's not something that I initially picked up on. So that's good stuff there. I don't know, man. I'm more than anything else, I'm just not a real fan for this horse. He ran one huge race here about a year ago when he won at Oaklawn, a blowout win with a 98 buyer. That's really the only race that I see in his overall record. That's the only one that I think gives him a chance to beat this field.
Edge to Edge, the number 9, big price on the morning line, expected to show good early speed. He's fresh and he's returning to his best surface. They ran him on turf in his most recent start back in early June. It didn't work out. Another horse that does very good work at Oaklawn, has run well fresh in the past, and at least at a price, he's going to give you a thrill. He figures to be squarely in the thick of things when they turn for home.
Yeah, that's a really good price for this horse on the morning line, because if nothing else, this is a horse who has a race in him that's going to give him a real chance in here. He's run 3 triple-digit buyers in his career, Dan. They're all 6 furlong races at Oaklawn Park. So we'll see. I think he's tactical enough to get the right kind of a trip in here. I do think he's a horse, though, who's at his best when he can be forward and be part of the pace. And it's at least worth pointing out that 2 of those really fast races he's run have been when he just had control on paces that weren't fast.
Run Classic, the number 10, is a horse that earlier in his career was pretty consistent and pretty solid going longer in graded stakes races. Personally, I like him better at these shorter distances. We saw him rally from off the pace to win the Gulfstream Park Sprint in 2024, a race that made his connections think he's good enough to go to a race like the Dubai Golden Shaheen, where he was likely in a little bit too tough. Since he's come back, he's had 3 starts. The last start going a mile over a wet track I'm not interested in. I do like him cutting back. Now he needs some pace.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think he's going to have something to run at here. And as opposed to, maybe a couple of the other closing sprinters in here, he's not going to, I don't think he'll be outrun in this race. That he's got enough speed to keep this thing within range. And he's just really interesting because you got to pick apart his form a little bit. As you mentioned, he's run well going long. His overall form sprinting on dirt is excellent. I mean, I think this is what he really wants to do.
Before we take a look at our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time for our Friday race of the day. Stakes caliber allowance at Oaklawn. You're going with the 10-run classic. He should get a little bit of pace to run at. He has back class. And I just think getting back to a fast sprint is the key for him.
Yeah, me too. I just like this horse sprinting. He's drawn outside, and I don't think he's going to be too far away, even if this pace gets fast. And I do think he's going to be a fair price in here too. So all those things just sort of conspired to want me to give him a shot in here.
Curious to see if Cavod, the number 5, can sort of step it up against a slightly tougher field, but he's coming into this race in very good form. He has good prior races at Oaklawn Park, and I just think he's a tactical sort that can get the jump on the true closers. Horses like Run Classic, horses like tahanotwist, and I think he'll be a fairly decent price on the tote. 10-3-1-2 for Mike, 5-3-1-2 for me. It's the Friday race of the day, the 9th at beautiful Oaklawn. Best of luck.